Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Smith, and I am the voice and the astrologer behind this YouTube channel, Nonconformist Conscience. We have a few things to talk about for this week. So, this week, throughout the week, Jupiter is going to be trining the South Node and sextiling the North Node. I am going to share my screen for all of you all who are wanting to look at this. So, with Jupiter here and trining this South Node while also sextile this North Node, this is really interesting. Jupiter in Gemini is wanting us to expand upon our knowledge, what feels true, what feels authentic for us. This is where we can be attracted to certain types of philosophies, or different types of teachings. And the key is to, one, follow what feels authentic, but two, also to integrate that on an intuitive level. At some point, Gemini needs us to do more of the Sag Jupiterian dynamic of sticking to one thing in order to be able to start to synthesize it. So there's that dynamic with Jupiter and Gemini transiting, but the other dynamic with this beautiful trine to the South Node is this is where we could be called to have conversations with people from our past, or looking at old dynamics from our prior relationships and then expanding upon our knowledge dealing with that. When we look at the trine from Gemini to Libra, there's this beautiful naturally occurring law, which is that there is unity and diversity. And so this is a week where we could be having conversations with other people where we get to really understand that there is unity and diversity. The key with the South Node of Libra is it can be bringing up not only old dynamics that we need to expand our knowledge on dealing with other people, but it can also be where we're needing to truly listen to where another is coming from instead of projecting what we think that they should be doing or where they're coming from. And that way we can expand our knowledge. This can also be where we're confronted with people who don't really want to listen to us in the way that we need to be listened to. And so this is where really following your intuition, Jupiter comes into play with the lessons of a South Node in Libra. Is this someone I can share with? Are they able to hear me? Am I able to hear them? And if both are able to hear each other, there can be an expansive process in what we learn from another. This is also really beautiful, seeing as the South Node is ruled by Venus in Cancer. And it's about to enter into Leo in a second, where it will then be ruled by the Sun in Cancer. So it has similar energies. And let me see here. Let me stop this share for a second. I'll bring the chart back up in a minute. So with that South Node being ruled by Venus in Cancer at the 29-degree mark is where we can have these conversations that really teach us about our own emotional dynamics as a way to be more emotionally self-reliant and self-sufficient. Jupiter is ruled by Mercury in Leo, and later on today, Venus is going to enter into the sign of Leo, and both are going to be ruled by a Sun in Cancer. And so it just kind of doubles down on this energy of there's a lot of cultivating of self-love, Leo, and self-dignity, self-respect, when we speak from the heart and when we're honest, Jupiter, about our own emotional dynamics. So no matter what is said to anyone, we can only do our part, right? We can only make sure that we are speaking from the heart. We can hope that someone else is, but the true lesson in this is, are you able to hear where another is coming from? Can you speak from the heart? And what are you learning about your own emotional dynamics? For some people, especially with Saturn retrograde and Neptune retrograde and Venus trining Neptune retrograde today, is where our emotional dynamics can be exposed, where maybe we felt insecure about talking or saying something to someone for fear of being rejected or judged, or any of those things. Am I going to be understood? This can also pinpoint and expose where we've had ideals around, if I say this to this person, then maybe they're going to be this way if I do that. And that's a very Libra dynamic. And the thing about that is that we can't have an expectation as a way to control. We can have hope and faith, Neptune, that if we speak from the heart and we speak about how we're truly feeling on an emotional level, that maybe that person will hear us, or maybe that someone will understand us. But regardless, it's more about, what are you learning from doing that? Are you learning about your courage and about your own self-love and your own healing of speaking? Or maybe you're being confronted with, oftentimes, you're hoping and wishing for an outcome that maybe isn't going to happen. And that can confront you with Libra boundaries. I've said this before, boundaries are really healthy. They create safety. But the boundary lies within the one who creates it, right? A boundary isn't a way to, it's not a form of control. And that's what we don't want to get into. If we're really wanting to expand our own knowledge and inner awareness around our own emotional dynamics, there's a lot that could be confronted right now. And it's an inner confrontation, and it doesn't have to be bad. It means that we can just understand ourselves more deeply and then make a different choice now that we know this knowledge and we're expanding upon it. But whenever it comes to boundaries, what I mean by the boundary lies within the one that creates it, this can be where all of a sudden you're mustering the courage to speak from the heart about something that is really going on inside of you, and you're needing to have this conversation with someone, and maybe you're really afraid, and maybe you're needing to speak a boundary about what's going on. If that person goes against that and can't hear where you're coming from, that's what I mean by the boundary lies within the one who creates it, because then you have to make a choice. Am I going to be in self-love and self-dignity and self-respect, Venus and Leo, Mercury and Leo? Am I going to say, okay, well, that's your choice, but I need to do something different. I think I need a little bit of distance or a little bit of separation from you. That would be pulling in Aquarius, which Venus is also opposing Pluto, retrograde in Aquarius. This can be where we might have dynamics that are exposed where we're needing more objectification, some separation, so we can throw off old dynamics in order to understand and integrate the knowledge that we're learning about ourselves so we can expand upon it. So that can be where we're having to say to someone, I respect your choice. I don't agree with it, but for my own healing and for me to be in self-love and self-respect, I'm going to have to take myself out of this situation, or I'm going to have to separate from this, or I need space. And it's not as a way to control, it's a way to have self-love and self-respect. Because how many of us have said things to people and we feel disrespected, or we feel a sense of indignation, which is a great Leo word. And we continue to go back to that person, or we continue to have wishful thinking, right? It's this kind of Neptune, Saturn, and Pisces dynamic that a lot of us can be confronted with right now. And it really gets us to tap back into, where is this coming from? And actually, how does this emotionally, what emotions is this bringing up? Am I being in self-love and self-respect and self-dignity, or do I keep going to an empty well, having an expectation that someone's going to change, or I'm wanting to see the best in them, or wanting a certain outcome, and really it's just a form of self-abandoning? So these dynamics can come up. On the flip side, this can be really beautiful, where two people get together and they speak from the heart, and it expands their inner knowledge about themselves in a different way. It can be, oh, I have the ability and capability to be in self-respect and self-love, and look at what happens whenever I do speak from the heart and about what it is that's coming up for me. So this can happen in all types of ways. So let me share my screen again. So the other dynamic that I want to talk about is, well, actually, let's see here. I'm going to stop this and look at this for a second. I want to show you guys this. Oh, that's why. Here we go. So the other dynamic that I want to speak about is, once Venus enters Leo, like I said, it's going to be opposing Pluto. And this can be where we're needing to throw off dynamics of where maybe we're not being in self-love or self-respect, or where we're needing to really objectify what's impeded upon us feeling that way, and to look at it and to see if we've over-identified with some type of dynamic of the past, where it's, like I said, it's impeded on us being able to show up with self-love. This can also be where maybe we're finding out that in order to integrate the knowledge that we've been expanding upon, Jupiter and Gemini, we might be needing to have Leonian self-focus in order to pull in that Pluto and Aquarius objectification. And through that, we can see Uranus is the ruler of Pluto and is also ruled by Venus. So this can really be about, in order to transform some of these dynamics within us, we're needing to compare and contrast the present and the past, and to have some self-focus, meaning if we're wanting to integrate all that we've been looking at and working on, we might need to listen to ourselves about, is this a time period of expansion or constriction? Do I need to retreat right now in order to integrate everything I've been learning? Or do I need to go out and be more around community and friends in order to learn more about oneself? The key is, one needs to really listen and pay attention to themselves. This is how we create Libra type balance, right? Is knowing when to retreat and when to go out, when to be around people, when to integrate what we've been learning. And so this can really come in and be teaching us about these kind of Leonian qualities, about maybe I'm needing to assimilate information so I can speak from the heart. That way I can throw off some of these old dynamics. This happens in all types of ways. The other dynamic that is occurring while this is going on is that the sun is trining Saturn. And this is what we call a disseminating trine. And again, it has this dynamic of exposing our ideals and where we might have been overly attached to our ideals, and the security around giving ultimate meaning to something, especially if it's a relationship. This can be with a family member, or It can be with a partner, it can also be with work. And then we're seeing how our emotional security is actually, rooted in that instead of more in our own internal self-reliance on an emotional level. This can also be where we're wanting to really heal some emotional dynamics. And so this disseminating trine can really, it's disseminating. Just think of what that word means. It imparts wisdom, Saturn, into our situation, onto our situation. So if there's something that you've been wanting to understand about your own emotional dynamics, this is a day where, you can really, well, even this week, really come to understand and have this type of wisdom be imparted. And this is where one is needing to self-reflect. Again, it's Saturn, self-reflecting into oneself in order to look at the Cancerian emotions that are going on. And where there's needing to be a restructuring of our emotional dynamics. The other thing that I do want to talk about for this week is until the 15th, Mars is going to be approaching Uranus. They're both in Taurus. They're ruled by Venus, now in Leo, who's ruled by a sun in Cancer. So it's bringing in this whole dynamic of what are our Mars, our desires, our patterns? Are we aligning ourselves and the actions that we take with our own values? Taurus, how are we doing this in a way that honors our emotional reality? Is it helping us to strengthen our emotional security? Are we being emotionally self-reliant and self-sufficient? How is our self-esteem being impacted by all of this? What are we needing to self-actualize in this type of way? Are we needing to throw off some old dynamics of where maybe we strayed from our own values and we're doing things for other people? Are we on the straight and narrow in this way? As Mars is approaching Uranus, we're going to be looking at and having all of these realizations about how our values correlate to our lifestyle. What types of patterns are you entrenched in right now? Are they healthy? Are they productive? Are they aligned with your values? Are they aligned with what gives you meaning in life? Or are you living for something else? Is this something where you feel emotionally secure, where you're able to validate yourself on an emotional level? Are you able to be self-sufficient and self-reliant? Or at the end of the week, as Mars crosses over Uranus, there might need to be a new cycle of making a lifestyle change that's more in alignment with self-love and self-respect, and where it can heal our emotional dynamics and cultivate more emotional self-reliance, self-sufficiency. So there's a lot that can be coming to light with this balsamic Mars to Uranus. We can feel like we're ending a lot of old patterns where we weren't grounded in our values or in our own self-sufficiency. It can be for some people where we're realizing that we're needing to be more self-reliant, that maybe we've been depending on other people. And so there needs to be this lifestyle change in order to be more self-reliant. All of this is going on this week, and as Mars crosses over Uranus on the 15th, this is where it can spark new ideas about what direction to go, and how we align ourselves with what feels meaningful and of value, and how we're wanting to foster a healthy lifestyle that helps us feel more secure on an emotional level because we're able to meet our own needs, because we're aligning ourselves with that. And then this is also seen on the 15th with the Sun conjunct the North Node of Saturn, both in Cancer. This is where we have this dynamic of illuminating what needs to be restructured on an emotional level. And as we come into this awareness, we get to Saturn and Pisces heal these dynamics, and then the Sun sitting on the North Node of Saturn to have a recrystallization of creating a new foundation of emotional self-reliance, and that we're called to truly self-actualize in this way of creating an emotional foundation where we can nurture and validate ourselves and do it in a very self-reliant way. So this is your week. There's a couple of things I want to speak to. One is I fixed the Cancer birthday special. My calendar was messed up. Luckily, I had someone reach out to me and ask questions, and I was able to go in there and fix that. So if you are someone who is a Cancer and didn't get to book a Cancer birthday session with me, that is fixed. You will be able to do so until the 20th. So you have over a week. And you can book that as long as it's booked before the 20th. If you need to have that appointment past the 20th, that's fine. You just have to book it before the 20th. And then the other dynamic is I am going to be on a new show on the EA Zoom channel. It is about the moon through the houses and the signs. It's called Evolving the Moon Through the Houses and the Signs. I'm doing this with Kristen Fontana, Stacy Pizzura, Deva Green, Rob Shahal, and Joe Malloy. And so I'm really excited that we're starting this series. We're actually going to be recording this today. So be on the lookout and look on the EA Zoom channel if you want to watch that. Of course, we're starting with the moon in Aries, or the first house. And this is a really great way to understand the moon's involvement in evolutionary astrology and how important it is. You all on my channel always hear me talk about how we only evolve through the emotional body. My beautiful friend David Green wrote a book called The Moon and Its Nodes in Evolutionary Astrology. If you don't have that book, I strongly suggest you get that. I will put a link to it in the description of this. But there hasn't been a lot talked about the moon in EA on the channels or anything. And so we wanted to come together as a group to talk about how we can tap into each one of our moon signs as a way to evolve and nurture and validate it. And this is such an amazing time to be starting this. The sun is in Cancer. And we're about to have our second full moon in Capricorn, which is the polarity of Cancer. So be on the lookout for that. And I think that is all I want to say and give as an update. Oh yes, I also did a written report 2 days ago. Summertime is very busy for me with my kids, so if I can get, a written report out one day, but I can't do the video, I'll try my best to get it done as soon as possible. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, I had to pause this. Anyway, excuse me. Whew, Lord, my allergies are going crazy. So I jump back on here just to say, before I had that coughing fit, that this is your week. The written report, I will post a link down below, and I will post a link to Deva's book and also to my website. And I hope that I see you all next week. Comment on here. Tell me what more videos you want to see. If you want me to go over something. I love hearing y'all's ideas or what it is that you're needing. And anyway, oh my goodness. I hope you all have a beautiful week, and I will see you next week.